Grace, mercy, and peace to you from God our Father, from Jesus Christ our Lord. This is the day that the Lord has made. We are glad and we're rejoicing in it. It is a good day to be alive. It is a good day to be in Formation Saturday with each and every one of you. As we know that this is our time of impartation, I began Formation Saturday several years ago as an opportunity to host conversations with other faith leaders about subjects that will strengthen and deepen your walk with God. And so it is a time of impartation, a time of instruction. And so I am grateful to God for the opportunity to spend this hour with you on Saturday, the third Saturday of the month of June. Now, I am on my way home. I'm on my way home. I've been away in Florida preaching this week, and I am grateful to God for the Progressive Baptist District Association uh, in West Florida for hosting me this week during their Congress of Christian Education. I was pleased and privileged to preach for them. And now I'm on my way home because I'm going to be in church in the morning. Uh, but I am grateful to be able to bring to you a continuation in our conversation about financial management. I've been saying to our church for the last several months that I want every single member to be a tither. Every single member to be a tither. And if you are tithing, I want you to be a giver. And if you are tithing and giving, then I want you to also be a uh, burden bearer, taking part in the burden bearing initiative, which is the $28 pledge that we give to our church on a month by month basis. And if you're giving your tithe, if you're giving your offering, if you're doing burden bearing initiative, I often just add on that you should consider being a blessing to your pastor, for Galatians 6:6 does say that the one who is taught in the word should communicate with the one who teaches in all good things. First Corinthians says that if I have sown to you my spiritual things, you should sow to me your carnal things. And so we've been talking about finances, and I've been calling on our church to be more faithful in their giving. And I understand that giving to the church is a byproduct of how you're managing your money away from the church. And so we've had 2 months of Formation Saturday that has been focused on your finances. Last month, I re-aired a lesson that I taught from 1 Corinthians chapter 16 about having a financial system. And this month, I want to re-air a conversation I had with one of my pastoral mentors, great friend and brother, Pastor Darold Montgomery. The subject was the Joseph Principle, but it was good about finances in general. And so I want to share that with you on this morning, to hear from the guy that taught me about budgeting and stewarding and saving. I want you to hear from him how you can take some of the same principles that I've tried to teach you, that I've tried to live out in my own experience. We'll hear from him as he teaches that in another Formation Saturday setting. So let's go into this session with Pastor Darold Montgomery talking about the Joseph Principle and other financial tips that will help you in your personal financial management. What I'm going to be talking about, what we're going to be talking about today, was taught to me by Pastor Munn. I have a book on my shelf from a series he did.
Man.
The first time you did Survival Surplus was like 15?
It was, let's see. It was in the old building, so it had to be past 12. It had to be somewhere around 14, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
When I started doing that.
Yeah, he did a series called Survival to Surplus. Cassette tapes, okay? Cassette tapes. The case was green. I'm resisting the urge. It's probably behind me in his bookshelf. The case was white and green, about 9 sessions. and he put a workbook together
Mm-hmm.
on moving from survival to surplus. This was my introduction to finance. This is where I learned about budgeting. This is where I learned the difference between a credit card, a debit card. This is where I was introduced to the B word, the word budget.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all, just about everything I know about finances, I learned from Pastor Munn. And he taught me a principle that we want to spend some time with on today.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me a principle. And so our conversation today is going to be on the Joseph principle. It's the Joseph principle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to read a couple of scriptures, and then me and Pastor Munn, we're just going to talk around this. Foundational is Proverbs 3.
Mm-hmm.
Foundational is Proverbs 3, verses Proverbs 3 verses 9 and 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna read from the New Living Translation today because again, this is about being practical. This is all about putting it in your lap, putting the cookies on the bottom shelf so you can get it.
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs 3 verse 9 and 10 from the New Living. Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part of everything you produce. Now, the King James is going to tell us that it's the first fruits
Mm-hmm.
of all our increase.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then verse 10 gives you the promise. If you honor the Lord with your wealth, if you give God the best part of everything you produce, the first part of what you increase, then
Mm-hmm.
he'll fill your barns with grain and your vats will overflow with good wine.
Yeah.
And so that's key. But so that we could get the text for the Joseph principle, I'm going to read from Genesis 41, and then we're going to talk around it. And I can I'm telling you up front, I got my paper and my pen because I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes today. Verse 47, Genesis 41. In the 7 plenteous years, the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities, the food of the field which was round about every city, laid he up in the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea very much, until he left numbering, for it was without number. Well, what is he doing? Well, that's up in verse 34. He says to Pharaoh, appoint officers to take up the 5th part of the land in the 7 plenteous years. Let them gather up all the corn, all the food of those good years, lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep them in food cities. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. So that's going to bring me to my first question. I'm not going to try to explain it. I'm just going to bring this first question and we're going to jump in.
Mm-hmm.
So how, Pastor Mon, because what we're seeing in Genesis 41 is what I want to call cycles of plenty
Mm-hmm.
and cycles of lack. So how do we learn to identify the difference between those two cycles?
Pastor, I've learned to view life in many areas as a roller coaster. You're going to have some ups, you're going to have some downs, some ins, some outs, some haves, some have-nots. That's just life in any area. It's going to be good. It's going to be not so good. That's the roller coaster effect of life. But even financially, things are not always going to be the best. You're going to have some up times, some down times, some good years, some not so good years, and that's basically what the text is expressing there. God loved Israel enough to set something in place by using Pharaoh's dreams to send a forewarning. And he'd already gifted Joseph to not only with the gift of administration and management and so forth, but he also gave him that gift to interpret dreams. And so he strategically placed Joseph where he needed to place him so that those dreams could be so eloquently disseminated. And now he's in a spot now so he can interpret that dream, those dreams rather. But the way we do that now, to identify those cycles of plenty and cycles of lack, you mentioned it earlier, is that B word. Your finances are going to have some unpredictability to it. Everybody's does, until we get to a level to where it doesn't matter, what happens, when we get up to that higher amounts of money that we're generating, that we've stored up. But most of us are not there. Most of us are living till Friday. Most of us are living from paycheck to paycheck, and we don't know what to do sometimes. But the only way we're going to identify, that's the key word. I'm glad you posed that question that way. That word identify is huge. And the only way we can do that is through the medium of a budget. We have to make sure that we incorporate a budget into our financial working system. Most of us as African American, we didn't grow up learning anything about budgeting. Our parents didn't teach us, but they can't teach us something that they didn't know. They just kind of made it. They just kind of got by the best they could. But I'm pretty sure that we have people that's going to be watching us, that's watching us now, that are in a position to where they're tired of just getting by. They're tired of the roller coaster effect of money. They're tired of not having enough, and it starts right there. And you got to identify it through a budget.
Your budget is key.
Yes, it
because one of the things, this was the exercise he gave us when I first heard him teach this.
Mm-hmm.
He said, get you a small notepad that you can keep in your pocket.
Right.
And every time you spend money,
right,
write it down.
Write it down.
He said, every time you spend money, write it down, because you have to discover where your money is going.
Where it's going. That's it.
And so if you are not committed to putting it on paper, spend it on paper before you spend it on paper.
That's right. That's right.
And so another principle he taught us was you do your budget at the beginning of the month, and then you review your budget at the end of the month.
Right. That's right.
Why are we pushing this so? Because if we don't take this step, we won't be able to identify, well, hey, in the months of March, April, and May, I'm going to have an uptick in finances.
Right.
In the months of October, November, December, I'm going to have a downtick in.
Right.
So I have to start paying attention to my cycles of increase, my cycles of decrease, so I can prepare. That's what all this is about.
Yes, it is.
All of this is about being prepared for when you are down, so that you're able to take care of your responsibilities.
Now, so I want to throw one thing in here, because all of the listeners, those that are watching, and I'm pretty sure if you have not already taught it, you're going to teach this. Those three phases of giving, because giving is huge in it. It's huge in it. You got to give to God. You got to give to yourself. You got to give to your future. for the believer, you got to give to God. And you'll go more into detail when you get into that teaching. You got to give to yourself. That's what we're talking about here. We're going to disseminate that. We're going to explain that, chew it up so you can have it. But then you got to give to your future. Those three areas for the believer, we have to get down. We got to get those things down if we're going to be financially better off, let's say. Okay. And so those things have to be done. I want to throw that in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're going to come back to this in just a moment, because this is literally he's already let the cat out of the bag. This is literally what this principle is all about.
Man.
I won't give to God.
Right.
I got to take care of myself.
Right.
But I got to have my eye on the future. I got to do something to get myself ready. So since we've already let it out the bag, let's go to this second question.
Okay.
So what exactly is the Joseph principle? Okay. And I kind of put something together, and I'm gonna set it to the side here, and we're gonna talk about it.
All right. Now, I want to reiterate that scripture. Just pull out a couple of things that you said in Genesis 41, verses 34 and 35. Let Pharaoh do this. Let him appoint officers over the land. Take up a fifth part. That's huge. Take up a fifth part, which is 20%. Okay. 20% of the land of Egypt for 7 plenteous years. And let them gather the food of those good years that come to lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. Scripture goes on to say you want to do this to be laid up against. That word against in that text is huge. The laying up of the fifth part is against what's coming, because there are going to be some lean years. God sent good before he sent lean. He sent fat. He sent fat before he sent lean. But now it's up to us to prepare for what's coming. That's what this principle is all about. The Joseph principle is all about, and I think you just said it, Pastor, is to lay up something, to prepare ourselves, to get something in place to counteract what's coming. Now, we can't do anything about what's coming, but we can do what we can, or do something about how we survive it, or get through it, or prosper through it, be fruitful through it, so that everything can remain as it is as we continue to build for the future.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna bring this graphic up based off of what we said.
Right.
We're gonna bring the three gives up. Give to God.
Give to God.
We know that when we tithe, that's 10%.
Right.
Pastor just told us that Joseph's word was set to the side, a fifth part, which is 20%.
Right.
This is to your future.
Right.
This is for your future. So
right.
You save wisely.
Right.
And then you take the remaining 70%, give to yourself. This is your living expenses and what you need to survive day by day. The Joseph principle says that you can reduce your lifestyle to 70% of your income and save 20% of your income. Give to God 10% of your income, and it'll change your life.
Yes, it will.
It'll change your financial life.
Yes, it will. Pastor, I was for a good number of years generating quite a bit of money. I mean, my wife and I we generated quite a bit of money. This is what really prompted this all those years ago. But at the end of the year, I didn't have anything to show for it. I said, now how can I generate this amount of money? And at the end of the year, I didn't have much to show for it. And I started doing something. I started to say, I gotta make a change. I gotta do something differently. Because if you don't do anything different, you won't get anything different. So I had to change my system, I had to change my strategy. I started identifying where all this money was going. Because that analysis is imperative for future growth. And so once I started identifying it, I was able to start saving, start putting money away. But at the same time, I never stopped. I never had a problem with tithe or offering a seed. Nothing. I always gave to God. My dad really drove that into us growing up. But that 20% and managing that 70% was where the error was. And I think that's what most of us are now. If we can manage to make some wise decisions with that 70, while at the same time working that fifth part, that 20%, setting it aside. I call it my corner, put it over in the corner. And if we could do that, it would literally change your life. Year over year over year, I started seeing my finances get better and better and better and better because I started working this principle. And Maurice, you know, I mean, you've been knowing us for years now. You know where we are now. You know what God has blessed us with. I don't even want to get over into if it worked at my house. Let me take the same principle to God's house and what that has produced. And I mean, we talk about that later, but that same principle worked at God's house, and man, it has produced. I mean, you know, we talk, and so this is not something that we just telling you so we read and sound real good. No, this is fruit talk here. You know, so make sure that you guys are applying what we're saying.
He won't say it, but I will. The building was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think it had a roof when you bought it.
It was the half of it was about gone. It looked like a bomb that went off in that building. Hurricane Ivy.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And not only have they rebuilt, renovated, state of the art, they burned the mortgage this past year following this principle, which is why I want to give this to you, not just for you as an individual, but for us as a church, because God is not a respecter of person. He's a respecter of principle. I'm going to put that in for your notes. God is not a respecter of persons. He's a respecter of principle.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
If the principle works in Pensacola for LCE, the principle can work in Columbus for GB.
Yes, it can.
I'm convinced of that.
Yes, it can.
So since we have someone who's already practiced the principle, I got two questions. I'm gonna combine 3 and 4 together because they're so close.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, why is this principle important to me? And we've already kind of touched on that. But then also, how do we implement the principle? Why is it important? Because I need to know I got to have my why. My why is going to govern my how.
Right.
And I want to know, how can we begin to implement?
If we work this principle, Pastor, properly, consistently, and intentionally, it has the potential to alter your financial position and change your mind financially. If we work it consistently, properly, and intentionally, it has the potential to alter our financial position, but also it will change your mind. That's the key. change your mind financially. What it does mainly is this principle gives us more options. For those that are watching, make sure you take that note down, because when we as believers, particularly us as African Americans, and I keep bringing it up because we've been devoid of teaching in this particular area for years, and this type of teaching should start at home. And since we've been devoid of it, we've just been left with what's been passed down that we've gathered through osmosis, just kind of watching our parents, just watching people. And since their system wasn't as efficient as it could be, or as fruitful as it could be, we kind of adopted what we saw, because whatever we deem as right becomes normal to us. And we just kind of had things just passed along, not realizing that there's a better way. And so the only option we had was to live till Friday, was to live just enough to get by, to live until we get our what is it, the income tax check. We just lived until those days, to give us some areas of relief. You know, our income tax comes and it gives us some areas of relief. But the relief only lasts a couple of 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month, and we're right back in that same cycle again. This principle gives us options, because if we work it right, we will begin to see things grow a little bit, which gives us some options. Let me throw a couple of things in already. I'm gonna show you some of the options that this particular principle will give, because if we make do some intentional saving, if we do some strategic management, and here's a huge one, if we do some decisional maneuvering, you got to make some tough decisions, some wise decisions. Maneuvering means moving things around, kind of putting yourself in different positions, because you've picked up tips and tools, and now I'm working this thing. Okay, so you got to have consistent saving. But then I'm gonna give you a couple of tips that you can use. I think you alluded to it. I call it buy it before you buy it. Okay, let me give an example of what I'm talking about. If I'm going to buy a vehicle, and I don't know if I can afford it, I want a particular vehicle, I have to see if I can afford it before I go and sign the paper. Way you do that is you take a number of months. I'd say start with 6 months, and you buy it before you buy it. So you let your budget get acclimated to you already spending X amount of dollars. Let's say $400. You know, because these days you ain't gonna get a whole lot for, you know, somewhere between $300 or $400. So you take $400, and instead of you know, spending on something, you know you're gonna buy the car. You know you need the car. So you buy it before you buy it. You pull it out of your budget. You pull it out of your normal income coming in, and you stick that over in the corner. Stick it over in your bank account, so your budget can feel $400 leaving before it has to leave. You see what I'm saying? So you buy it before you buy it. So after 4 to 6 months, now I've adjusted everything to fit $400 leaving my budget. Now I know I can afford the car. You see what I'm saying? But here's what happened. Since I bought it before I bought it, I took the $400 for 4 to 6 months and put it over in the corner. Now I got 4 times 6, that's $2,400 sitting over in the corner. When I go to buy the car and they say I need a down payment, I don't have to freak out. I got it already. So actually I killed 2 birds with one decision. One strategic decision, I killed 2 birds. I discovered that I can't afford the car. My budget has acclimated or adjusted itself to fit the $400 leaving. And now I got my down payment already over there. Wow. See what I'm saying? So that's just one of those principles. Buy it before you buy it. Another one is save what you save. Okay. What do you mean by that? If you know you're going to buy something, if it's a high dollar item, a big ticket item, or whatever it is, you know you're going to buy it. You know you're going to spend that money. Once you start working your principle and you have money over in the corner, if for some reason you're blessed to find that item much less than what you were going to spend, now you go ahead and buy that at that much less, and the difference of what you were going to spend versus what you paid for, you stick that over in the corner. So now I saved. If I was going to spend $800 on it, I know it, but I found it somewhere, same thing, for $200. I saved $600. So instead of going and blowing the $600, I save what I saved. I take the $600, stick over in the corner, and now I'm buffering. I'm still buffering. I'm buffering my future. Okay, so I'm putting stuff over there. Now, when I start working this, now I can borrow from myself. Now I become my own bank. I become the lender, and
not the borrower.
So now, if I need to buy something, furniture, appliances, washer, dryer, whatever it is, instead of going to the store and let them talk me into putting it on time, putting it on an account or whatever, when I'm paying them interest, which is free money that you're giving them, I go to my bank account and I ask myself, I say, self, myself says, I need to borrow $1,200 to buy this refrigerator. And the same money I was going to pay them back, I pay myself back. You see what I'm saying? So I take the 12 out of my savings account, go buy the refrigerator. And if they was going to charge me $180 a month for however long, I just pay myself back $100. I was going to pay them anyway. I just pay myself back. So I'm putting the money right back. So now I'll put myself in a position that I can do business with myself without a third party being involved. I keep the money in-house and I just work my business. That's decisional maneuvering. You see what I'm saying? So once I position myself, I can start doing those things. Now, it's gonna take a little while to get there. It'll take a little time. But once you get there, you can start doing some things like that. I mean, we did some things like that when we bought this house. I told Copac, let's just go ahead and pay your car off, which was a substantial amount of money. And I said, don't worry about it. We just start whatever the note we was paying them, we just start putting it back in the bank. So we borrowed the money from ourselves, basically. And we just put it back every month until it gets back up to where it was.
Yeah.
But now the car, I owe no money on no cars. Her car, and you know her car. It's a high-end car. My truck been paid for. My daughter's car been paid. I paid cash for it. But I couldn't have done those things had we not been working this principle for years and years and years and positioning ourselves to where we could make some of those maneuverable, those decisional maneuvering. And so you have to do that. I wanted to throw that in because that's huge. That's huge. Because listen, when you work this principle, it will help buffer. It will help buffer your finances, because those lag times, the shortest time, those unexpected times, they're going to come. And you need to have a buffer against those things, some kind of cushion, a buffer against those things. And this principle helps you. That's what that fifth part did for Israel, did for Egypt. That's what it did. It buffered the 7 lean years that came. If they didn't have that, one, they wouldn't have made it through. But two, watch this, they wouldn't have been able to gather all the gold and silver and all those things that those neighboring countries had to bring to buy from Israel. It was all God. God was doing it. Because see, what was the tabernacle built out of? All that stuff those people brought. This thing was all about God strategically getting them in a position so that when they was ready to leave, he said, go and borrow all the stuff from your owners and from the people you work for. Take everything they got. They bankrupt Egypt in one day and took all that stuff. God was trying to get them out there to a tabernacle, a tent of meeting. I want to meet y'all out there in the wilderness. All of it was God. All of it. All of it. Wow. And so when we understand that, we can put ourselves in a position that not only we can supply need for ourselves, but also here's a big one. We can start doing some things that we want to do. How do I know? Okay, you brought up our existing building, Murray. Now remember that, also we're getting ready to build another building. I needed more space. Okay, I worked this Joseph principle. It took 2 years to figure out, could we afford to pay for a new building? I did the exact same thing I'm telling you guys for 2 solid years. I didn't want to do it for 6 months because I don't know. I needed to see a good 2-year run that the church could pay for, because we're going to build something upwards of $1 million+ dollars. Can the church afford that? Let's see if we could. So I started, I figured out what $1 million was going to cost. I figured out, went to the bank, found out what the note was going to be. And I started the principle, putting it over in the corner, in the savings account, putting it over there every week. I put a certain amount of money over every week. It just automatic drafted over there. So our finances could feel it leaving, but still stay at a certain place. It felt it leaving. And after a while it adjusted. And for a 2-year run, after that 2-year run, I said, we are able to pay for this building. So we start moving forward with plan, architect, the whole thing, engineers. And when we got to that point, the engineer told us, we ran into some land problems, weren't able to build on the land. Then COVID hit. We come back. We may not need the space right now. So I tabled it. But for 2 years, we were stacking over there. We were stacking. I said, you know what? I'm gonna pay this building off. I think it'll be. I prayed about it, got a good piece from God, and we paid the building off because we had prepared. We had prepared for what was coming. We had prepared for what we were getting ready to do. Okay. So since the money was sitting there, because we'd already prepared 2 years, prayed about it, got a good piece from God, we went on to pay the building off 12 years early than what the note would do. 12 years in the middle of the pandemic. That ain't supposed to happen. Where does that happen? In the middle of the pandemic, we write a sizable check. I went to the bank and said, how much do we owe you? Give me my payoff. I'm gonna go right across the street and get y'all a cashier's check and bring it right back to you. The guy's eyes got big. Really? Okay, yeah, that's just what we did. Paid the church off. The church was excited. They were elated, but it put us in a real good position to have a debt-free building. We are doing more renovations right now. Just a total upgrade. So the value of the building is constantly increasing. Man, it's and so when the dust settles from COVID, and the Lord says it's staying, we move back into our building project. We're in a debt-free building.
I want to point something out that you may not have realized you just told us.
Okay.
You applied this principle for one thing.
Right.
And that door closed.
Right.
But because you were prepared, you could pivot and do something else.
There it is. I like that.
We were preparing for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
That one thing we didn't pan out.
Right.
But because we were prepared,
we could pivot.
We still had the resources. We could still move forward. Going back to what was said, the first thing you said about this, it gives you options.
Options. My God. Gives you options. That's right.
And so applying this doesn't mean I'm practicing this principle. Personal testimony. The First Lady and I have agreed, because we want our emergency fund, we want our rainy day fund to be able to finance 12 months of expenses easy.
That's what the experts say. The experts say that. Make sure that rainy day fund can carry you from 9 to 12 months, just in case something
But
else won't happen.
just in case something happens in the building of that,
Right,
because we've been preparing, we
right.
still have options.
You got options. That's right, man. That's and I often tell people, you know, we have pastor friends that they ask about this, and especially when they find out about how did you do it, I'm supposed to go and talk to a couple of guys whenever we can set the date because they want to know this principle. How did you do that? How was the church able to do that? They're in similar situation, and I'm glad to go over and talk to them, but they want to know because it gave us options, and that's a real good position to be in. It's a good feeling. Thank the Lord. Lord has blessed us. But for all of the listeners and the watchers, I wouldn't sneeze at this principle. I would really pay close attention to operate this at your house. And for the members of GB, follow your leadership as he leads you into this new era, new direction, because it has the ability, and I'm living proof of it. This ain't somebody Maurice got y'all. Excuse me, I call him Maurice. Pastor got y'all just somebody. This is living proof. This is not something we read. This is something we've done. It works. Trust me. And so when he begins to talk to you all about that, pay close attention, follow his leadership, and he said earlier, God is not a respective person; He's a respective principle. If it worked here, it'll work there. Trust me, it will work. And I'm excited to see what's going to come out of it. What's going to come out of it. Now, Mark, let me get back to you. Asked how do we implement it? This particular
I'm
principle
ready.
quickly. First, you want to begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. So I got to know what I want to come out of this before I start implementing this. Okay. You want to do that written budget on purpose and on paper, where every dollar has an assignment and a mission. Now Dave Ramsey said something similar, almost just about the same thing. You got to find out where your money's going. You got to start doing that. In my little From Survival to Success series, I told everybody to do it the first 90 days. You need a good 90 days to sit down and do that budget. Pastor told you that we used to talk to him about every time you spend a dollar, every time you spend anywhere, write it down. I think you have an app that you found that
Yes,
you
sir.
can be a little bit more efficient. Make sure you tell him about that app. I'm old school. I like writing stuff down. We used to write it down. Every receipt, everything, because we got to know exactly where every dollar is going. Okay. John Maxwell said this. He said, a budget is telling your money what to do instead of wondering where it went.
Oh, oh,
Woo, boy. He says, a budget is telling your money what to do instead of wondering where it went. So I assign my finances. I tell it what to do. I'm in control of that. Okay. You want to do that. Number 4, you want to set some financial goals that are integrated into your household budget. So set some goals. What do you want to be able to do? I'm big on immediate goals, short-term, mid-term, long-term goals. I think I talked to you about that one time, Martin, when we were talking, how you have to make sure that you can set some goals out there so that you can set some short-term goals. You got to prove it to yourself that you can do it before you set a long-term goal. Don't set big numbers out there just yet, but start with those numbers so you can prove to yourself. Do it in a year, and by the end of the year, I want to be able to save X amount of dollars. By the end of the year, I want to be able to save this amount of money. By the end of the year, now, over the next 6 months, I want to do this, so you can prove it to yourself. So it gives you reason, gives you evidence that you can prove to yourself that I can do this instead of talking yourself out of it. Okay. Next, you want to create, open an active, if you don't already have it, an active savings account and consistently feed it. And we use the automatic transfer option on your account. You know, I'll talk to you about that. I have the accounts at the church. We have this thing. We set that up like that. I have my household account here. I revisit it every year to see if I need to increase it some more. Over the years, it went from $25 a week to up to as much as $1.50 a week. Just automatically draft over to our savings account. Just automatic. I don't see it. I don't feel it. The bank takes the whole. Should I do it this week? Should I not do it this week? Just takes it out of it. Just automatic draft. And most bank accounts you can do it. At most credit unions you can do it. Out of sight, out of mind. You don't have to debate with yourself about it. Once you set it in place, just do it and watch it grow.
Now I have. I'm doing that currently with the app called Acorn.
Okay.
But the interesting part about Acorn is not only is it weekly debiting a certain amount from my account into that savings account, it's also investing that money from that same account.
So you're exercising money market options and annuity options, different things like that.
Absolutely.
So that's right. Make sure you take them through those options when you start teaching that, because that is huge. So now your money can start making babies. The money can start making money. So make sure you do that. And I'm going to tell you, as a believer now, don't leave scripture out of this. God is attracted to fruit. Remember those talents, the 5, the 2, and the 1. When the 1 didn't do nothing with it, he took the 1 from it and gave it to, not the 2, he gave it to the 1 that did the most, because God is attracted to fruit. Feel what I'm saying? So when he sees that you are a fruitful person, that you're making those decisional maneuverings, and you're making some things happen, you are moving and shaking, you're doing some things. When you are a fruitful person, God can trust you. He can trust you. You're giving your tithe offering, you're sowing seed, but you're managing and you're working that 70. That is huge. You're working that 70. And God is attracted to someone that lives in the black and not someone that lives in the red. Okay? So make sure that you're doing that, and God's gonna bless you. All right. Let's see where I'm at. Set savings goals for the upcoming year. You could there's several different 52-week saving challenges you can do. They got one that you can do like a monthly thing. You go say $20 a week, $40 a week, 60, 80, and 100. Start back over 20, 46, and I think that will produce like $3,000 at the end of the year. You got one where you can add $1 every week. You start off with $1, then the next week you add $1, so that's 2. Next week you add $1. And by the time you get to the end of the year, you will have given or invested, if you will, $52 per week. You should end up with, I believe, it's $1,378. That's an easy one that you could do. Just add $1 per week to what, not saving a week. You're adding $1 to what you've already given. So you gave $1 one week, the next week you add $1 to it, so that's 2. The next week you add $1, so that's $1 plus 2, that's 3. The next one you add $1 to 3, that's 4, and so on and so on and so on. By the end of the year, 52 weeks, I think it yields $1,378. I think you have to do the math on that, but I think it's so you can challenge yourself with those things. Don't want to overwhelm yourself. Don't look for the huge numbers. Look for small, consistent numbers. Small consistency. That's what you want to look for, consistency. The number you don't want to see is 0. You don't want to not do anything. You want to do something, but do that something consistently over time and watch things begin to happen.
This is so rich. This is look for small consistency over time. That is That is rich.
Right.
Now, we're coming up on our hour, but
Mm-hmm.
I got one more for you.
Yeah.
When we apply this principle, we've already talked about some whys, but but where can we set our expectation? What can we look for when we start applying this principle to our experience?
Here's 6 things that you can look to get out of this, that you can expect to get out of it. The first one is financial repositioning. That's the first thing. Readjusting, repositioning yourself financially. What's going to come out of it? 2 is the big ta-da. It's financial gain. I'm gaining. I'm growing financially. Your savings and your position is growing financially. Out of that, 3, I get financial options. Okay. Now I'm not pigeonholed to this is the way it's gonna go. That further I can go. Okay. No, you got some options. Out of those options gives you financial stability. Now everything starts to stabilize. When I go to the grocery store now, I don't have to be as choosing what I can and can't get. If I want it, I get it because I'm stable now. I'm good. 5th is financial peace of mind. It
That's
gives
a
me
big one.
that's peace. I mean, man, Jesus Christ, financial peace of mind to be able to know that God has positioned me financially, that I don't have to worry so much when it comes to it. Now my prayer, I don't have to use my prayers for miracles to get my bills paid.
My.
Now I can use my prayer for something that's more him than it is me. Because he gives me he gives me the resource, but I got to manage those resources to handle that over there. I'd rather use my prayer for cancer, something I can't fix myself. I'd rather use my prayer for diabetes and all those things. So it gives me financial peace of mind. And then last but not least, it gives me financial fruit. Fruit. What fruit does puts me in a position that I can pass this on to the next generation and the next generation. Because once they see through osmosis what you do, they're gonna be taught, whether we do it directly or indirectly. But if that is the standard and the culture of the home, that gets in your kids, and that's just all they know. They know saving. They know the Joseph principle. They understand those things. They saw mom and dad do it, and they worked it, and it yielded this. So that's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to be attracted to. So listen, this Joseph principle has many tentacles. I mean, it's far-reaching. More implications than just finance. I mean, if your kids come up in an atmosphere of stability and standard when it comes to finance, that's what they're going to be attracted to. That's what they're going to look for. Okay, so for the ones that have daughters, you got a daughter coming. It'll be
37 weeks to date.
Listen, it'll be highly unlikely for Ray Ray to come blow smoke at us. And
No.
So now we got standards now that we can pass on from generation to generation. I mean, Maurice, we own a lot of homes. I got a rental business. We own quite a bit of property. I'm positioning myself to pass, what my dad passed to us, what I've generated myself, pass it on to my 2 daughters. And hopefully if they work the principle and sustain everything, they can pass it on to their kids. And now you got a snowball effect of what we call old money.
Old money.
And the other people been doing that for years. We hadn't had any options though. But if we position ourselves properly, we got options that we can jump into those things. We can do that. So that God can continue to bless us because he can trust us with his resources.
Now, I'm coming back to the text. We've talked a lot of finance theory, but because you ended with financial fruit and talking about next generation, I just want to throw this out. Isn't it interesting in Genesis 41 that he gives the principle and then has 2 children, and then it talks about the success of the principle? Ain't that just interesting?
Yes, it is, man. And see, the thing I like about God, and I think I said it earlier, God looks for people he can trust. Joseph was highly gifted in those 2 areas, highly gifted, but he was also a humble man. You know, so when God chooses to use, he chooses to use. He looks for people he can trust so that he can put, because with that concept of trust comes the ability to bear weight. So he can put heavy stuff on you.
That's right.
He put heavy stuff on you. GB, make sure y'all follow good leadership, because I think God can trust him with heavy stuff. And if God can trust him with heavy stuff, you should be able to trust him with heavy stuff too. Look at the decisions that he's made since he's been there. Look at the things that he's done since he's been there. That's fruit. Fruit. God is attracted to fruit. Joseph was a fruitful man. Everywhere they put him, whether it was in Potiphar's house, whether it was in prison, he bared fruit. God is attracted to fruit. All right. So follow leadership. Follow leadership. He's a Bible scholar. The thing I've appreciated about Pastor is he always asked and he always paid attention. Sometimes I was saying to myself, now why you ask me? You already know this stuff. He said, no, I want to make sure I ain't missing nothing.
That's right.
Go ahead.
And see, the reason, and I want to take a personal privilege to say that the reason I continue to ask Pastor Munn questions, I call him to help talk me through decisions with you, GB, because this is something that you want to stick in your back pocket. Fruit gets stale. So we can't just look at old fruit.
Right.
We have to look at progressive fruit.
Right.
If that tree bore fruit one time and never bore fruit again, it's a good indication that that tree is no good.
Right.
But if that tree keeps producing fruit, there keeps being cycles of abundance in the life of that tree. Okay, let's go back and get from that tree. Pastor Munn has a track record. What, LC is 22 coming on 23?
That's right. 23 this year.
Yeah. I've been following him since before LCE was LCE Worship Center, when it was the community choir. Watching how he organized and how he wouldn't even direct sometime with the community choir. He was behind the scenes pushing others, producing fruit. So I would say at least 25 out of my 33 years, I've been watching consistent fruit.
Right.
And I make that point to say that you need to have people in your life who are regularly producing fruit. They're not just talking. You can go back and say, hey, I saw this work, and I saw this work, and I saw this work.
Right.
And again, personal, me and the First Lady, we're asking God. I told you all last year, we're praying about a house. Well, I'm going to keep talking to Pastor Munn because I watched him move from the first house to the second house to 1, 2, 3, 4. You know? Yeah, I've watched him do it, and I've watched him do it by operating the principle.
Right.
So yeah, I'm excited about this.
I pray you were blessed by that content that we just shared with you.
and that it speaks to you in profound ways. I'm asking God that the seed of the word would fall deep into your heart and that it would bring forth fruit. For some of you, 100-fold. For some of you, 60-fold. For some of you, 30-fold. Listen, we're all in and we are excited about what that means for our church. That means that we're inviting people to be a part of our worship services. We worship together in the local sanctuary at 9:30 a.m. We worship in the virtual sanctuary as well, and we look forward to worshiping with you. We are involved in prayer. Our men pray Monday to Friday at 6 a.m. Our women pray Sunday to Saturday at 7 p.m. And our corporate church prays Monday to Saturday at 7 a.m. The First Lady leads corporate prayer on Saturdays at 7 a.m. In Bible study, thank you so much for being a part. We are uh, also involved in mission and ministry. We thank God for all of our mission projects. We thank God for all of our ministries, and they meet at their appointed times. And finally, we are investing in the kingdom of God through our tithes, our offerings, and our burden bearing initiative. If you desire to give, you can do so in one of these ways. You can go to greatbeulah.church/giving. You can go to Givelify on your mobile device, and you'll be able to give there. You can go to Zelle, and you'll be able to use the church email address gbbc613@gmail.com, and you'll be able to give using Zelle. If you're a member of our church and need to schedule a gift pickup, you can always call one of our deacons. If you want to put it in the mail or drop it in the mail slot, you can always stop by the church or put it in the mail to the church. The address is 613 6th Avenue, Columbus, Georgia 31901. Or if you're going to be in the local sanctuary, you can always bring your gift with you to worship. As we've already stated, this church is a Galatians 6:6 church. Let the one who is taught in the word communicate with the one who teaches in all good things. If I've been a blessing to you and you want to be a blessing to me, this is how you can do it. You can go directly to my Cash App, $PMKM, Pastor Maurice K. Mickles, my initials, and you'll be able to give via Cash App. If you're using Givelify, make sure you write into the memo that it is a pastoral gift. Or if you're using a traditional envelope, there's a space allocated for you to mark your pastoral gift. Our financial team will make sure that it gets to me. If you're in the local sanctuary, I will be glad for you to shake my hand, allow me the privilege and the blessing of speaking the word of blessing over you, your loved ones, and your gift. Thank you so much for spending this time with us on tonight. Thank you so much for spending this time with us in the study of the word. We love you so much. Let me bless you, and we'll go into the rest of our day. The Lord bless you, and the Lord keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you. The Lord give you his grace. The Lord turn his face towards you, and the Lord give you his peace. In the name of the risen Savior. Follow peace. Pursue love. Go in peace and serve the Lord. Until we meet again, I love you so much. Have a wonderful day.